class. My name is Miss Belfry, and we're going to be learning about probability, heads or tails. We're going to find out what probability is and how to find out the outcome if we flip heads or tails, or we flip heads or tails twice, coin twice to see what we get, and 3 times. Probability is helpful to know if something is likely or unlikely to happen. It's more useful if you can use a number to describe the likelihood. So that number, whatever number the outcome is expressed by saying by the probability. So an independent event would be the type of event where one event does not affect the other. So we're going to be doing independent event. So we're going to be doing flipping a coin, which doesn't affect anything else other than what our outcomes are going to be. Probability goes from 0 to 1. So if we make a chart, 0 is impossible. And 1 is very certain it will happen. Okay. So between here, 0 and 1, there's unlikely. Right here in the middle would be an even chance, half and half. And over here would be likely. So if we had an unlikely event, maybe it would be like 1 out of 6 chance. We could draw a dice, because the dice has 6 sides. Okay, so this would be unlikely, because you have a 1 and 6 chance. Okay, you only have 1 out of 6 chances to roll one of those numbers on that dice. An even chance would be if you had 2 outcomes, if you only had 1 outcome out of 2. So we could use coins. Okay. So we can use coins, has heads or tails. This would be an even chance, because that's 1 and 2, or 1/2. And then we can have a very likely chance of an outcome. So we could have very likely. So say we had 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have a 4 out of 5 chance that we will draw 4 black circles or marbles or whatever you want to use. Okay, so that would be 4 and 5. Okay, so probability goes from 0 to impossible to 1, which is very certain. Okay, so probability can be written as a fraction, a decimal, or percentage. And sometimes you can write 1 into, and I'll show you that right now. Okay, so if we had a coin, say you have a quarter, and you want to know what the chances are of getting a head, of it landing on heads when you're tossing it, we could write that there's 2 sides. You can have 1 chance, or one chance of it being on heads, one chance of it being on tails. So that would be, as a decimal, we would write 0.05. So a decimal will be written as 0.05. I mean 0.5. Sorry. 0.5. If we wrote it as a fraction, it would be 1/2 chance. So fraction 1/2. Okay? And if we want to write a percentage, 1/2 is equal to 50%. So percentage %. And sometimes you can write it as 1 and 2 chance. So we'll write 1 and 2. Okay? So in order to figure out and calculate what percentage, if you had a question, if you flip 2 coins, what is the probability that both coins will land on heads? Okay, so now we're trying to figure out, if you have 2 coins, what is the probability of both of the coins landing on heads? Okay. So we can use a table, you can use a tree diagram, or you can use the formula for compound events. Today we're going to be using the formula, which is probability. We'll write it as P. So P is for probability of A and B. Okay, so the probability A is how many, will be heads, and B will be the outcome, how many possible, what are the chances of it being it's heads or tails, so it can either land on heads or tails. So B will be B will be 2 because there's 2 chances of it landing either on heads or tails. There's 2 outcomes. So probability of A and B, we're trying to find heads. So we're going to do heads and heads. So we have So this will be for coin A, this will be for coin B. So equals probability of A times B. Okay? So we're going to do the probability of heads and heads. Okay, so we'll rewrite that. So probability of heads and heads. Okay? So the probability of it landing on heads 2 times will be, since heads is 1/2 of the coin, we're going to write 1/2, okay? So equals 1/2 times 1/2, okay? So 1/2 times 1/2 equals 1/4. 1/4. Okay?